So Simple tutorial. Good morning students. Welcome to SST So Simple tutorial. Today we are going to start a new lesson, Contemporary Centers of Power. My dear students, the Second World War was fought between two camps, the Axis powers and the Allies. The war ended in 1945 with the victory of the Allies. After the war was over, USA and USSR emerged as the two superpowers. But then a Cold War started between these two superpowers. In 1991, the Cold War ended with the disintegration of USSR. With this, the power relations in the world politics changed. The world that was so far bipolar became unipolar. There was no power that could seriously challenge the United States. The US became the sole superpower. The era thereafter has been the period of dominance of the United States. Now, there was an urge to ensure well-being, peace and security among the states. But this was not possible without the cooperation of other states belonging to the same region. Thus, groupings like European Union, ASEAN, BRICS and states like China emerged as significant centers of power. These powers could limit America's dominance, transform their regions into prosperous economies and play a major role in the world system. In this lesson, we are going to read European Union, ASEAN and China as emerging centers of power. We will also discuss Japan and South Korea as emerging powers. Today, we will discuss European Union. European Union is a union of 27 countries of Europe which are bound together through treaties. It is a result of agreement between the member countries to cooperate on political and economic issues. Let us see how it came into being. When the Second World War ended in 1945, Europe lay in ruins. Its cities were shattered, its economies were devastated. European economy needed recovery. Now, the leaders of Europe were faced with a tough question, whether to keep fighting or forget about those old rivalries and move towards peace and prosperity. The answer to this question gave birth to European Union. So the European Union, dear students, is a success story of the emergence and growth of European countries from the ruins of their economy. Let us see how things unfolded. It is here that USA stepped in and assured all help to European countries in the task of their economic recovery. In 1947, US Secretary of State George Marshall proposed that European nations create a plan for their economic reconstruction and United States would provide economic assistance. So under the Marshall Plan, the Organization for European Economic Cooperation OEEC was established in 1948 and over the next 4 years some $13.3 billion was provided by the US for European recovery. This help provided much needed capital that enabled Europeans to rebuild their economy. This OEEC now also became a forum where the West European countries began to cooperate on trade and economic issues. This aid of America, my dear students, thus also prevented West European countries from going into the clutches of the communists. Understood? In 1949, 10 countries of Europe formed a Council of Europe. Although it did not do anything significant, but it can be seen as one step forward in political cooperation. The next important step in the integration of Europe was the establishment of European Coal and Steel Community (ECSC). In May 1950, French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman proposed the establishment of a common market for coal and steel for those countries who were willing to delegate control of these sectors of economy to an independent authority. See, such a plan was not only going to avoid any future conflict between France and Germany, but it also sowed the seeds for the creation of United States of Europe in future. So, West Germany, Italy, France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, six countries, agreed to this plan and signed the Treaty of Paris in 1951, and thus ECSC came into being. The resulting ESCS introduced a market, single coal and steel market, with freely set market prices and without import export duties. The success of ECSC led to further steps of integration. Another significant step towards economic integration was the formation of the European Economic Community by the Treaty of Rome in 1957. Initially, it was signed by six European states, but subsequently more nations joined it. This treaty provided for the ultimate abolition of all tariffs and other barriers. All custom duties and restrictions were lifted between the six member countries of the EEC. This resulted in free flow of goods, men and capital from one country to the other. So basically, EEC was a sort of custom union that aimed to integrate its member states economically. The Treaty of Rome also established the European Atomic Energy Community, which is called Euratom. The purpose of Euratom was to develop peaceful applications of atomic energy. So, Treaty of Rome created both EEC and the Euratom. Thereafter, in 1985, Schengen Agreement was signed. This agreement led most of the European countries towards the abolishment of their national borders. That means building Europe without borders. This led to the creation of a common travel area in which there were few internal border checks. Look at here what Moni is saying. Oh, now I know what a Schengen visa means. Under the Schengen Agreement, you have to get a visa from just one of the EU countries, and that allows you entry in most of other European Union countries. The next important landmark is the Maastricht Treaty that was signed in 1992. This treaty is the foundation treaty of European Union. It finally established the European Union. It had provisions for shared European citizenship, introduction of a single currency, for common foreign and security policy, and cooperation on justice and home affairs. So, this is how European Union came into being. European Union was not built in a day. It evolved over time. It was founded upon several treaties and has undergone expansion from original 6 to 27 countries today. You can see the chronology of enlargement of EU on the screen. The process of integration of European countries proceeded step by step. The six countries that met in 1957 are the founding members: Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. The first enlargement took place in 1973 when Britain, Denmark, and Ireland joined. So 6 plus 3 total became 9. In 1981, Greece joined. Total became 10. In 1986, Spain and Portugal joined, making it 12. In 1995, Austria, Finland, and Sweden joined the EU, taking the total further to 15. Then in 2004, a bumper joining takes place. 10 countries from Central and East Europe became a part of EU, taking the total to 25. Thereafter, Romania and Bulgaria joined in 2007, and Croatia is the last one to join in 2013. So the total becomes 25 plus 2 plus 1 is equal to 28. But mind you, Britain withdrew from the Union in 2020. So presently there are 27 member states in EU. Okay. Now an effort was made to have a common constitution for all member states. But the French voters rejected the constitution of the European Union. Actually, for the acceptance of a common constitution, it is imperative that all the member states ratify it. So, the attempt to have a common constitution failed. But it has its own flag, own anthem, founding day, and currency. You can see the flag here. You will find 12 gold stars on a blue background. That means golden stars against a blue sky. The number 12 is a symbol of perfection. The circle of stars symbolizes unity, solidarity, and harmony among the people of Europe. It was first raised outside the Parlement building, which is the headquarters of EU in Brussels. The anthem of the EU is called Ode to Joy. No words are used here, only music is played. The anthem is not intended to replace the national anthems of the European Union countries. It is played just to celebrate the values they share. EU Day is held on 9th May every year. This date marks the anniversary of the Schuman Declaration. Euro as the official currency of EU was introduced in 2002, but only 20 out of the 27 members are using it. Others have chosen to use their own national currencies. Let us now see the influence of EU, economic influence first. EU is the world's largest single market. It operates as a single market made up of 27 countries. Naturally, the size of its economy is also huge because it is the joint economy of all the member states. The EU is the world's second biggest economy with the GDP of more than $70 trillion in 2016, which is next to that of the USA. Thus, the economy of the EU is about 1/6 of the world economy. Its share of world trade is much larger than that of the US. That is what makes EU powerful and more assertive in trade disputes with US and China. Since its economy is so impressive, it becomes influential to its neighbors as well as in Asia and Africa. In the international organizations like WTO, EU represents itself as a unit. Member states do not negotiate individually, rather they do as a single bloc. In currency, Euro is the second most traded currency in the world, next only to US dollars. Hence, there is a possibility that it can pose a threat to the dominance of the US dollar in future. Next, political influence. The EU has political and diplomatic influence because again EU is not one but in fact 27 states pushing their agenda together. France holds a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. Plus, it includes several non-permanent members of the UN Security Council. This has enabled the EU to influence some US policies such as the current US position on Iran's nuclear program. The EU's use of diplomatic and economic investment has also been very effective in contrast to the US, which uses diplomatic as well as military force. Thus, EU has been effective as in case of its dialogue with China on human rights and environmental degradation. Let us now examine military's influence. The EU has no common military setup of its own. Militarily, the EU's combined armed force are the second largest in the world. Its total spending on defense is second after the US. One EU member state, that is France, also has nuclear arsenals of approximately 335 nuclear warheads. It is also the world's second most important source of space and communication technology. Let us now see the limitations of European Union. As a supranational organization, the EU is playing a very active role in world politics and economics. However, on many occasions, its member states are at loggerheads in relation to foreign and defense policy. We have the example of Iraqi invasion, when Britain and several new members supported the US-led coalition, but Germany and France opposed American policy on Iraq. Some members of EU are not happy as regards the adoption of common currency euro. There are apprehensions that euro will not succeed and may fail. Britain's former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher therefore kept the UK out of the European market. Denmark and Sweden have also resisted adoption of euro. This limits the ability of the EU to act in matters of foreign relations and defense. So, what we have read about the European Union? Let us just have a recap. It is not a government. It is neither an association of states nor an international organization. 27 member states have surrendered part of their sovereignty to EU institutions, as a result of which EU citizens are enjoying some benefits. With no border controls within EU countries, people are traveling freely throughout most of the continent. It has become much easier to live and work in another country in Europe. All EU citizens have the right and freedom to choose in which country they want to study, work, or retire. The single market of the EU, besides people, goods, services, and money, move freely. EU citizens in 19 countries are enjoying the benefits of single currency euro. The EU has delivered more than 60 years of peace, stability, and prosperity in its region and has raised the living standards of the people living here. In 2012, EU was awarded Nobel Peace Prize for advancing the cause of peace, democracy, and human rights in Europe. Let me stop here, student. I hope you must have developed some understanding about the EU today. You read your textbook now. In the next class, we will read the next topic, ASEAN. Till then, keep reading and have a nice time. Thank you.